Imagine a single intangible blueprint becoming the global standard of the semiconductor industry, generating billions of dollars in recurring revenue without producing a single physical chip. This isn't a fantasy. It's a business model that exists and thrives today, led by one company, Arm Holdings, based in Cambridge, United Kingdom. Arm Holdings does not manufacture or sell semiconductors. Instead, it designs the architecture for central processing units, CPUs, the brains behind nearly every modern device, and licenses this intellectual property to customers around the world. When those customers produce and ship their chips based on Arm's designs, the company earns royalties on every unit. This is a repeatable, high-margin revenue structure built entirely on intangible assets. There's no factory, no inventory, just code, architecture, and licensing agreements. In fiscal year 2025, Arm Holdings generated approximately $4 billion in total revenue. Of that, about $2.1 billion came from royalties, and around $1.8 billion came from licensing and other sources. All of this was achieved without manufacturing a single product. Yet, despite the elegance of this business model, Arm Holdings remains wrapped in a series of unresolved mysteries that investors cannot afford to ignore. The first and perhaps most glaring mystery lies in the company's ownership structure. Roughly 87% of Arm Holdings shares are held by Japanese investment conglomerate SoftBank. But here's where things deviate from the norm. Over 70% of SoftBank's stake has been pledged as collateral. Typically, majority shareholders avoid using their equity holdings as loan collateral in order to maintain long-term stability and market trust. In Arm's case, the heavy collateralization of shares raises concerns about potential liquidity pressure and the risk of massive sell-offs, what the market calls overhang risk. This is more than a technical detail. It's a structural anomaly that casts a shadow over the company's valuation. The second mystery concerns revenue concentration. Nearly 50% of the company's total revenue comes from just 4 customers, with one single customer accounting for around 17%. Normally, global technology companies strive for client diversification to minimize business risk. A structure so heavily reliant on a few accounts can create critical vulnerabilities. Should any one of these key clients reduce orders, pivot strategies, or bring development in-house, the impact on Arm's revenue could be significant. It's a case of apparent diversification masking a hidden dependency. The third mystery involves Arm's revenue collection in the Chinese market. Most of its licensing and royalty revenue in China is funneled through a separate entity known as Arm China. However, Arm China is not a wholly owned subsidiary of Arm Holdings, nor does Arm Holdings have full management or accounting control over it. This is highly unusual. Standard practice for global corporations is to maintain financial clarity and operational control over entities responsible for significant revenue streams. Yet Arm Holdings has, for several consecutive years, reported credit loss provisions related to its transactions with Arm China, an indication that some of the revenue it books may never actually be collected in cash. In short, there may be a serious gap between recognized revenue and real-world cash flow. These 3 mysteries are not superficial concerns. They go to the core of the company's fundamentals, affecting everything from earnings quality to valuation justification. Still, Arm Holdings continues to make bold strides in technological innovation. In 2024, the company unveiled a new architecture called Compute Subsystems, or CSS, optimized for artificial intelligence workloads. This new blueprint aims for more than 50% performance improvement over previous generations and is gaining rapid traction across high-performance computing, data centers, and AI chip sectors. The CSS initiative also marks a strategic shift toward higher royalty per chip designs, signaling a move into premium licensing territory. These innovations are beginning to show up in financial performance. In May 2025, Arm Holdings reported quarterly revenue of approximately $1.2 billion, a 34% year-over-year increase, and the first time the company's quarterly revenue exceeded the $1 billion mark. Royalties contributed around $600 million, and licensing brought in approximately $630 million, both setting new records. And yet, the market remains cautiously reserved. Why? Because while the results look impressive, the structure behind those results is still uncertain. Investors are left to weigh technical superiority against a backdrop of questionable control, risky dependencies, and opaque collection mechanisms. ARM Holdings is without question a design empire, but it's one whose foundation requires careful scrutiny. For investors, the critical question isn't just how good is the technology, but how secure and sustainable is the structure behind it. Thank you for watching until the end. The Valuester channel welcomes your input on stocks and cryptocurrencies, whether they're listed, unlisted, or expected to go public soon. Please feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments. Your comment could be the starting point for our next investigation. This was Valuester.